What's up, and welcome back to Legend of the GLORIO Heroes, your premier recap podcast for the iconic 1988 OVA. We're coming to you live and sounding better than ever. We're here and ready to start the new year in the only way we know how.
With a terrible cold.
Yes, we're coming in strong. We're coming in healthy. We're here to ring in the new year on the best foot forward. So,
yep. I mean, we saw last episode that having a cold didn't stop Yang Wen Li. So
no, certainly does not.
It's not going to stop me either.
Exactly. As always, I'm your host G, and there on the other end with me, as always, come hell or high water, is Iro.
I lived, bitch.
Yes, if it doesn't make entirely sense, the GLORIO network has been, shall we say, in middling health the past couple weeks or so. We're managing as best we can. In retrospect, me deciding to absorb the life energy of the remaining members of the GLORIO network was maybe not the greatest idea, but hey, I feel fantastic.
You needed that spirit bomb to defeat your enemies.
Exactly. If without that spirit bomb, we might not have stopped Geiersberg. We might be coming to you live from the Kempf-Mueller corridor instead. But yeah, let's just roll into it. So, you could say a complex trio of episodes this week.
Yes.
Iro, do you have the titles?
One moment, please.
Sure thing.
Okay. This week we're covering episode 36, Thunder. Episode 37, The Abduction of the Young Emperor. And episode 38, The Arrow is Released.
As you can imagine from such evocative titles like that, we got a whole lot to talk about this week. It's this trio of episodes kind of begins to introduce what I guess we will consider the new status quo for season 2.
We had that big climax with the Battle of Geiersberg versus Iserlohn, and so now it's like time to set up for the next leg of the show.
Yeah, basically, it's kind of crazy, right? You look back at this show and there isn't filler, right? It's just like bop, 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 just one crazy ass event after another. Who could even say how much time has passed between Geiersberg and
it's been
these 3 episodes?
You
think so?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
All right, I hope so, because boy, it would be kind of hard to believe if the Empire bounced back from Geiersberg this quickly. But anyways, let's just roll right into it. So episode 36 opens up with the narrator helpfully explaining to us that on planet Odin, no building can be built taller than the castle or the palace Nuu-san Soshi or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce this. Neue-san Soshi?
Maybe that's closer. Because I
don't speak German.
Right, and because I'm uncultured, I'm just going to probably keep calling it Nuu-san Sushi, so, we'll... Feel free to try it. Feel free to give us the correct pronunciation. All you can eat
for Nuu-san Sushi.
Yeah. I'll go over some of that, but maybe not, because I don't think Reinhard would want us there anyways, because we find out in this kind of setup here that Reinhard hates parties.
Absolutely hates parties.
Yeah, does not care for it. He is... he is the premier. He is basically handling all the shit for the Kaiser, and basically Reinhard has figured out, surprise, surprise, that Phezzan is up to no good.
Yeah, and, Kessler shows him in his office and tells him that we've received an anonymous tip that Count Lansberg and Leopold Schumacher are plotting something.
Yes, they
have arrived in the Empire via Phezzan and are plotting something.
Oh yeah, they're up to no good. And, I think Reinhard kind of quickly figures out that Kessler finding out that information is likely in and of itself part of Phezzan's plan, and that it is wiser to just have Kessler kind of keep tabs on the men than straight up just apprehend them right off the bat, because Reinhard being Reinhard figures
what is their objective?
Yeah.
Like we can learn something by figuring out their objective.
Exactly, and besides, Reinhard's not too worried because one of these dudes, Count Lansberg, is a lousy poet, a bungling poet, one might even say.
They continuously refer to this guy as a bungling poet throughout these episodes.
Yeah, Reinhard just keeps shitting on this poor dude's poetry.
Spoony Bard.
Yeah, indeed, truly, that is. In another world, that is how that was probably localized.
Hilda puts forth the idea that there's only 3 really legitimate kidnapping targets that these 3 could go for. And also, I guess the lead into that is an abduction or kidnapping is the only logical thing that these 2 people could do. And the 3 potential targets are Reinhard himself, Reinhard's sister, which really sets him off.
Oh yeah, Reinhard gets mad when just the mere suggestion of it.
Yeah. Oh, I'll kill that bungling poet. I'll kill him more cruelly than anyone else. I'll make you feel more pain than a human has ever felt before.
Yeah, you get a little bit of old Reinhard kind of flashing back there for a second. But which, maybe speaks to, how that dude is holding up these days.
Yeah.
But yes, then there's the third and final target, which is the Kaiser himself.
Yep, 7-year-old Erwin Josef.
Yes, the second, I think.
Sure.
But yes. So, suffice to say, long story short, Reinhard basically sees the writing on the wall and has begun to, as characters in Legend of the Galactic Heroes are wont to do, begin to make his own maneuvers in response to Phezzan's plot. Before we move on, there's one good line here I did want to bring up, which relates to the episode title, where Reinhard says that Thunder is like, or is it that Rudolph, Kaiser Rudolph was like thunder. His rage was like thunder. It was powerful, but a waste of targetless energy. And I think that's kind of an interesting statement to come out of Reinhard, because I think that statement
he immediately follows it up with, "But I'll be different."
Yes, but then he immediately follows that up by not being so different after all. Which I think is it is an interesting bit of character building. I think in many ways Reinhard dropping that quote very much feels like him trying to maintain the image of, oh, this is the kind of ruler I am. But as much as he tries to convince everybody that yes, he's not going to be like Rudolph. He's not going to be like these despots. He's cool. He's calm. He's collected. He's
gets set off at a moment's notice.
Yes. It's not even like Hilda. It's not even like Hilda was the one who said, "I'm going to kidnap your sister." She just mentioned the very possibility of it.
She's just listing the possibilities, and he just freaks out.
I mean, I guess it's proof that he really does care for her, I suppose.
I guess so.
But anyways, we leave them alone, and we return to the bungling poet and Schumacher. And the bungling poet, Lansberg is, he has a very romantic, idealistic idea of how this is going to go. That this isn't a kidnapping; it's a liberation.
Yeah, the true Kaiser is going to be freed from his shackles of the Reinhard administration, and
our good, trustworthy friends of Phezzan are going to help us out. Why shouldn't we trust them? They're being so nice to us. And, I think Schumacher,
Schumacher is the smart enough guy.
Yes.
Kind of corners his handler in the elevator.
Yes, he knows the deal.
Tell me what the fuck's going on.
Right. Schumacher basically intuits from the very start that he's basically been set up.
Oh, yeah.
regardless of how this plot goes, Phezzan seeks to gain. Either, he succeeds and they get the Kaiser, or he fails and he's just an unaffiliated Empire terrorist, essentially. And
indeed,
it speaks to the fact that, like, I think we've talked about this in the past, that the really great thing about Legend of the Galactic Heroes is that even when people are being set up, even when people are being led into plans, even when people are being manipulated, I mean,
they
it's
still
never
take their own steps. They still have agency.
Yes. They still have agency, and they're still reacting to it. Nobody, unless you're an FPA general that isn't named Yang Wen Li, nobody in this show just takes a beating lying down. Like, when things bad happen, people react just like they do in real life. And I think that's one of those subtle things that Legend of the Galactic Heroes just does so well that really elevates it above, I don't know, literally anything else I've watched. So, but anyways, we go from there to Hilda visiting Annerose, where I don't know where exactly this happens, but I have here written in my notes, if only Kirky Eyes were here. So I assume somebody said that. So add that to the count, I guess.
Yeah, I think right before Hilda goes to visit Annerose, she makes a stop at Kirky Eyes' grave.
Oh yes. Kirky Eyes' grave, the hottest landmark and meeting spot in the Empire.
Yeah.
Just everybody wants to go there.
And meanwhile, Annerose continues to be the perfect, beautiful angel or whatever.
Yes. Annerose continues to be the almost comically angelic, pure, perfect,
blandly perfect.
Just ideal of a woman, I suppose. Just living here in this rusty cabin with her humble manservant Konrad von Motor.
Yeah, who was one of the dudes who survived in Lippstadt when what's his name fired upon his own troops.
Yes. I already forgot his name, but
we got that cut in of Kid Konrad meeting Soldier Konrad.
Yes, and Kid Konrad is the one who here, and basically Hilda's just trying to convince Annerose to accept some heavier security measures. Basically, she's trying to be reasonable. She's like, we're not gonna make you move back in with Reinhard. We know things are a little awkward, but could you at least accept more guards at the perimeter? And we're treated to this fucking amazing visual where Annerose is talking about without Kirky Eyes, Reinhard is lost. Those two were closer than soulmates, and we're treated to this image of fucking a cherubic Kirky Eyes and Reinhard in fucking straight up angelic robes and wings, flying through the heavenly skies. And
right, so I theorize, upon seeing this ridiculous scene, I theorize stock footage from the second movie titled Golden Wings.
Right. I'd be willing to believe that. We never did a podcast about this, but we did, prior to Legend of the GLORIO Heroes, we did watch the first movie, My Conquest is the Sea of Stars. I know there are other Legend of the Galactic Heroes movies, but we never got around to them. Maybe one day, maybe when we do Legend of the GLORIO Heroes Gaiden, we'll get to the movies.
Chronologically, we're past all of the movies at this point.
Yeah, you're probably right, but who knows? Could be interesting to go back to those someday. But anyways, after we finish up with Annerose's weird angel boys imagery, we find out that Annerose doesn't want to accept protection because
she feels responsible for Kirky Eyes' death
because she told Kirky Eyes to protect Reinhard, and it just look. I
get it.
Yeah, I don't dislike Annerose. She seems very nice. I just think that sometimes she lays it on a little thick.
Well, she was born in the Empire.
Yes, the fucking most melodramatic corner of the galaxy. It's one of those things where like, I, it's so over the top that in any other show, like hell, even in Legend of the Galactic Heroes, I'd half assume that this has got to be a front, right? Like halfway through this, like Annerose is gonna take the mask off and reveal that she's actually like this cold, calculating psychopath genius or something.
There's still time. There's still time.
I feel like if that was gonna happen, they would have pulled that trigger by now. But
Yeah,
maybe you're
probably.
right. Maybe after we've beaten the Earth cult and just taken down Phezzan, maybe fucking Annerose will rise from the ashes and reveal that this was all part of her plan, that she was behind it all. And that's what will force Reinhard and Yang Wen Li to team up to defeat the true evil of the galaxy. But
yeah, but the line that Hilda gives that finally convinces Annerose is that Kirkeyes was too young to die, but don't you think that Reinhardt is too young for his spirit to die?
yes, basically, like you could argue that maybe Hilda is trying to emotionally appeal to Annerose, but I think at the core is
I mean, she is.
she is, but she is for entirely rational, logical reasons.
Oh yeah,
like
sure.
if I feel like in many ways, like I think maybe we'll get into this more and more as we talk about maybe the second episode of the three, but I think there's a good contrast to be made between Hilda and Oberstein, because both of them feel that in some ways it is their, not just their desire, but their duty to influence and push Reinhard in a certain direction.
Yeah.
And whereas with Oberstein, this is, the sheer, cold, calculating, I will make him the greatest, ruler that ever lived. I think, like, in many ways, while Hilda is definitely, like, far more, benevolent than Oberstein, in a ways, her goal is also, like, if you really want to boil it down, is to successfully manipulate Reinhard. She wants to do it for his own good, or what she believes is his own good, to make bring him back on the straight and narrow. Even if we kind of can tell, we could tell from the moment Reinhard killed some kids, a little while back, that he's kind of on this slippery slope and there's no coming back up. But Hilda certainly seems determined to slow it down as much as possible. So I think
while this has a fundamentally different idea of what a good ruler is than Oberstein does.
Exactly. And so while this is definitely like an emotional appeal, I think she's also making the right, like, logical choice that Reinhard's emotional and mental state is kind of already
fragile.
Yes, it's hanging in a weird place, and losing Annerose so shortly after Kirkeyes, I think Hilda knows that would push Reinhard over the edge, all the way over the edge. Like,
yeah.
Losing Annerose is how a guy like Reinhard goes down in the history books as, like, Reinhard the Terrible.
Yeah.
But and that, I guess, not only that, but then we kind of get into this interesting bit here where Hilda then also, despite that emotional appeal we're talking about, I feel like Hilda actually also kind of uses a fair bit of logic here on Annerose when she starts talking about the responsibilities and obligations of those in power, the burden of being in leadership, or if not leadership, then in Annerose's case, privilege.
Well, she has influence over a person who has influence over billions of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Shouldn't she use that influence, like, to for the better, I suppose?
Yeah. It's a fairly strong point made by Hilda here, that, like, in many ways you could almost argue that Annerose is kind of doing something similar to Yang, right? We had that conversation a while back, that, like,
passive,
right, because she doesn't want to, or isn't capable of handling the responsibility of being active in the political scene because of the sheer amount of power, the sheer amount of soft power she wields. And we'll get back to soft power later. But
if Annerose wanted to, like, if she wanted to do the things that Hilda is doing towards Reinhard, she could do it way more effectively.
oh yeah, no, totally. Like Annerose could with the barest effort become like I don't know what is the moral opposite of like the scheming vizier, like the good vizier. Like, is there such a thing?
Point is, if she told Reinhard to quit it all, he probably would.
I don't know.
Okay, maybe not that far, but
No. Actually, I kind of like you said that, Eero, because I feel like I wonder now. Now that you said that, I wonder.
yeah, no,
I
I don't
wonder
know if he'd drop it all at this point.
Yeah. I bet at a certain point in this show, if she had said that, he would have relented.
Yeah,
I think like a pre-Lipstad, yeah, like a pre-Lipstad rebellion Reinhard would have relented to Annerose's pleas. But I think Reinhard where he is now, and I think if she ever does beg Reinhard to stop, I think we're already too late.
Yeah, you're right.
Honestly.
But the smaller things should definitely be able to convince him of.
Yeah, like don't kill kids.
Yeah, or stuff that's coming up later involving military police.
Yes, but we might as well get to that because there's still stuff left in this episode, but we might as well just get right to it.
Reinhard pulls Boltic in to his office. Boltic being the liaison between the Empire and Phezzan.
Yes,
and basically just tells him, "I know everything you're up to. What's your goal with this plan to kidnap the Kaiser?"
And not only that, but like, what is your offer? Because
right, he knows that Phezzan is the one who leaked the information of the plan in the first place.
Yeah, but not only that, but Reinhard basically lays out his hand here in a way that basically forces Boltic to go on the defensive. And what Reinhard tells Boltic is, regardless of what you do, I win. Like, either you fail and the Kaiser stays here and continues to be under my influence, or you succeed and congratulations, you've given me the perfect casus belli to invade the FPA. Because Reinhard correctly guesses that if someone were to kidnap the Kaiser, the boy Kaiser, there's only two places in the world or in the galaxy they can take him. That's Phezzan and the FPA. And
basically, Reinhardt's either got a great excuse to go after the FPA or a great excuse to go after Phezzan.
Exactly. So Reinhard basically lays it out. He's like, I'll let you kidnap the Kaiser, but you owe me something. And, what I want in exchange is access through Phezzan to the FPA.
It was coming. We were saying it episode 1, fucking whatever.
Yeah.
What? These are loans, not the only way into the FPA.
No. Like, I feel in a lot of ways, DNT, the modern anime remake, actually, in a lot of ways, hinted at this in its very first episode. Because I think in the first episode of DNT, the narrator literally says, there are two ways between the Empire.
Okay.
I think he says something like that. Like he says, Phezzan and Iserlohn. Like it focuses on Iserlohn, of course, but I think there's definitely a throwaway line there that's like, and Phezzan has access to both, basically.
Right.
So,
and even if that line wasn't there, like it's clear by now.
Yeah.
That Phezzan, Phezzan's entire role is to be in the middle.
Yes, and that they wield an immense degree of power as a result of that positioning. And Reinhard wants that. And the way things are going this episode, we'll see how this development turns out down the line. But
yeah, I think
Reinhard has recognized that he's not gonna. Not only is he not gonna take Iserlohn, he's not gonna take an Iserlohn that is being stationed by motherfucking Yang Wen Li.
Yang.
Yeah, the goddamn magician, the miracle man himself, Yang Wen Li. But there's only Yang Wen Li, and Yang Wen Li certainly can't guard the Phezzan corridor either, so...
Yep.
It's...
It's a good situation for Reinhard.
Yeah.
As
It goes
per usual.
Yeah, as per usual. I mean, I'm not going to complain about it too much because I feel like this is just kind of Reinhardt's MO at this point, but I liked Geiersberg not only because it it put Reinhardt on the defensive for once in his life, but I feel like I don't know. In many ways, I feel like the reason why Yang Wen Li is so captivating a character is because we are constantly seeing him,
put out fires.
Yeah, not just not put out fires, but make these clutch plays, with his back
Constant
against the
underdog.
wall. Yeah, whereas like you never really get that with Reinhardt. I'm not saying that Reinhardt needs that, but I would definitely be interested in a Reinhardt that struggles a bit because I want to see what that version of Reinhardt is, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Reinhard is not always positioning himself to profit the most.
yes. But, that's basically episode 36. Kind of ends on that note. So with that taken care of, we go into episode 37 where
run down the palace grounds. Yes,
where the narrator gives us yet another some more exposition about New Sansoucci. That it's some real Forbidden City shit. Basically only nobles are allowed there. It's so big that there are 400 kilometers worth of corridors in this place, which is insane. Like, this place is the size of a city, apparently.
Total area is 66 square kilometers, I've written down.
Okay. And that's still pretty sizable. This place is like this fucking decadent place. It's filled with foxes and women.
God, there's this like blink and you miss it clip of Kaiser Erwin Josef playing in the garden or whatever,
fucking hitting people with sticks.
Yeah, just beating his like retainers with sticks. Like,
yeah, it's
what?
It's something. Yeah, it's maybe a hint of things to come.
Yes,
but
it is that for sure.
But anyways, they kind of end this narration with that this place used to be kind of where all the nobles would come and wine and dine and be decadent assholes. But since most of those nobles are fucking dead, thanks to the Lipstadt Rebellion,
and because of Reinhardt's new economic policies,
he as I was alluded to earlier, Reinhardt doesn't like parties, so no more parties at New Sansoucci. And
grounds have fallen into disrepair.
Yeah. But we get all of this explanation.
And Leopold Schumacher are going to take advantage of that.
Exactly. So we find the bungling poet and Schumacher kind of discussing their plot, in some random basement somewhere, basically talking about, okay, like, this is how we're going to get the Kaiser, because turns out the palace grounds are not that well guarded.
Yep.
It's only the royal guard because they feel that the Kaiser should be protected by the royal guard instead of tasteless machines.
That's right.
Which is a very bungling poet style line.
And also he reveals that the Lansberg clan built the secret passages that run through the palace upon orders from the Kaiser at the time.
Yes. So, kind of all...
And has been passed down through the Lansberg line for generations.
Yes.
That when the Kaiser is in danger, we must save him with these secret passages.
Exactly. But yeah, so, yes, their plan is basically take the secret route, grab the Kaiser and get out of here.
Yep.
But we kind of leave that for a moment because we return to... is this the part where Phezzan kind of starts talking about
Yeah, I mean, they're saying we're not in a good position exactly because if Reinhard wishes to wipe out Phezzan, he couldn't easily do so.
Yes, but not only could he easily do so, but there's a moment here where, despite all the plotting and scheming that Phezzan has done, there's a healthy amount of awareness on Phezzan's part here, where they're talking about how actually we can only push them so far. Like we can only twist the screws into the FPA about their debts so much. We can only fucking poke the bear's net, the bear's cave that is Reinhardt so much, because if we ever push one of them too far, like you can guarantee
It's
that
easier to blow us up and then pay their debts to us.
exactly, like no matter how much the Empire and the FPA dislike each other, if one ever approached the other and was like, actually, fuck Phezzan, the other would likely agree because you know what? Like,
It would be
you're
highly
right.
convenient.
Exactly.
They also allude to a huge secret of the universe that nobody else knows except Phezzan.
Yes,
That
yes.
presumably is Earth cult related.
Oh, yes, yes. I'm very much looking forward to whatever that fucking crazy ass thing is going to be. But, so yes, from there we return to Reinhard. He's speaking with Oberstein.
Yep.
And basically Reinhard has said, yeah, we're just going to let them kidnap the Kaiser. And we're going to, we're just going to let that happen.
If they succeed, then they succeed. If they don't succeed, they don't. And we'll move on from there.
And they kind of bring up the point, however, that this is not so bloodless or benevolent of a plan as it might seem. I mean, if you're ignoring the part where Reinhard is literally allowing this to happen because he wants to keep fighting the FPA, let's not forget, like, the whole reason he's letting this happen is because he wants to keep fighting the FPA.
Yep.
Nobody has explicitly called, like, nobody in the show has explicitly called Reinhard a warmonger yet, but dude is warmongering hella hard right now.
Yeah. And Oberstein brings up the point that should this plan go through, someone's going to have to take responsibility.
Yes.
For not having security up.
Yeah. Like the way Empire society works, like no matter how much Reinhard has reformed it, like there will be expectations, and that unlike last time. Reinhard cannot just so easily forgive again. He cannot afford to look soft every time.
Right. Or so Oberstein says.
So Oberstein says indeed. And, there's definitely an aspect of this that's like, Oberstein's saying this as if it's just a fact of life. Like,
I mean, I don't doubt that Oberstein believes this 100%.
Sure. But I think what I mean is that, as we will get with Hilda later on, these things are not so set in stone. It's only Oberstein who chooses to frame them to Reinhard as these very permanent...
As the facts of ruling or whatever.
Right, immutable facts. But basically, yes, they find out that, was it General Holt?
Oberstein basically says you should have Admiral Molt take responsibility for this.
Yes.
And execute him or whatever.
Right.
Hold him accountable. Make him atone with his life.
Yes, but not only that, but Holt is a subordinate of Kessler.
Yeah.
So, in a ways, this is kind of a double whammy of, it's going to look bad, Holt's going to kill himself, and then it's not going to look great on Kessler's part either.
Right. But Reinhardt basically, like, Oberstein basically says, and also have Kessler be accountable. And Reinhardt says no. Like, he says, like, men like Kessler are hard to find. Like, I'll just, like, give him a slap on the wrist.
Right. And I think, in many ways, I think this is the beginning of, like, some very... some real dirty political machinations are happening here. It's...
They just agreed to kill Admiral Molt.
Yeah,
like literally... Nothing.
Like, right, this Holt dude has basically done nothing wrong. Like, they're basically, like, Reinhard holds the information. Like, he literally has the power to prevent it. And I will admit that philosophy is not my specialty, so I'm not going to get into, like, I won't go into a tangent about moral imperative here. But you can make an argument that Reinhard, because he has this information, has a moral imperative to not let this happen because it will actively kill someone. Like, he may not pull the trigger, but he might as well have. But then again, he's already tacitly let people die knowingly so many times at this point that I guess one person doesn't really make a difference anymore. But
yeah, and Oberstein gives this whole speech about how he can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
basically,
How all heroes have built their thrones upon the corpses of both their enemies and allies.
yeah,
And that everyone who follows them knows this as
Oberstein's
well.
pulling some yeah, making the mother of all omelets here. Reinhard can't go fretting over every egg.
Fuck it. I don't.
But
And does give a line. I'd like you to consider that at times to grant death is also a way to repay loyalty. Which I don't know. That's a nice sounding line, but also that's fucked up.
No, that doesn't sound right. That almost just sounds like some old school ass empire rhetoric, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yep.
Like some real fucking Bushido ass fucking, die for your lord shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that conversation ends. Reinhard is left alone, and I just want to bring it up real quick because I saw this, and I don't know if you saw this, but I think like it looked like as soon as Reinhard was by himself, he just fucking spits on the floor.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, he's just so disgusted with the conversation he's had with Oberstein, like he just has to fucking expel it from his mouth. And I don't know, man, it's just like the most fucking un-Reinhard fucking move I think I've ever seen. Like I don't think I've seen Reinhard physically act like this since he fucking, kicked a dude in the nuts and beat them in the head with a rock. Like, we get some flashes of old school Reinhard here again.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can appreciate those moments because I'm glad that because here's the thing. We're still seeing Reinhard actively like distasteful of the acts he's committing. I think the eventual worry is what happens when Reinhard doesn't even like what happens when Reinhard stops spitting on the floor, basically, right? Like, what happens when you reach the point when Reinhard isn't even disgusted by the things he's doing anymore?
It's a scary thought.
Right. And, like, I feel like in a lot of ways, like, the show, like, I think the show, neither the show's characters or the show itself has explicitly said, see, look at the slippery slope Reinhard's going down. See how much he's changed since season 1. But if you really look at the acts he's committed, like, sorry, what?
It's plain to see, I think.
Yeah, it totally is. Like, even if nobody else has yet to call him out on it, he has already changed so much since season 1.
There's an interesting thing to say about just this show in general, I think, is that obviously I have my own thoughts based on my own biases, but I feel like the show itself is, doesn't really take too much of a stance by itself. It kind of just presents everything.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, right?
Because there are people out there who are listening to what Oberstein is saying and watching Reinhardt follow his advice and going, yeah, that's how it ought to be. Like,
yeah,
just in the same way that we look at what Yang Wen-li does, and and we go, yeah, that's how it ought to be. Like, we love Yang.
Yeah, I think you're totally right, Iro, that a lot of our feelings about this show are taken entirely from our own conjecture and our own experience. And the show very explicitly never makes the decision to spell out explicitly, who is in the right, who is in the wrong. And, that is a double-edged sword because that is definitely how you get your fucking, your
shitty isms.
Yeah, or your shitty neo-monarchists who unironically say things would be better in life if we had a king. But at the same time, I think it is important and it is deeply vital to the show that it never, explicitly says, oh, this is good and this is bad. It just says, hey, this is how two like vastly different nations work and operate, and here are the strengths and the weaknesses, and we're going to kind of leave it up to you to really decide how you feel about it.
Which is interesting given last episode's Young's spiel on like the subjectivity of history and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, in many ways, that's kind of what ties into the feeling of this show, feeling like a historical recounting of past events. Is that it kind of does what the best history often does, which is basically just list the events that happened and explain the motivations and the reasoning of the people of the time, and kind of leaving you to make your own conclusions from it.
Yeah.
But anyways, so
He
we got
also,
to keep.
Reinhard also speaks with Oberstein about if the Kaiser is abducted, who else do we got to be Kaiser?
Yes. And they say that the next one in line would be this 8-month-old baby.
Yes, yep, this baby.
And like, I feel like this might be a throwaway line to some people. I feel like some people might just gloss over this, but I feel like to those who fight in the name of fucking liberty and freedom, I point to lines like this and I'm like, this is why monarchies don't work. This is why we don't have kings, because you are running a fucking madhouse if you could just sit there and calmly explain that, oh, well, naturally this baby will become the supreme ruler of this entire nation because that's just how things are.
So they're just the next in line.
You can't do that.
It's fine. Fucking bullshit.
Man, but
yep.
What turns out you don't even need to be 8 months old to be a problematic ruler, because we finally this episode ends with the kidnapping.
Yeah,
so,
they cause an explosion somewhere in the city to cause a diversion. Go through some secret passages. Into the palace.
Yep.
Poorly guarded palace.
And they
enter the room of the 37th Kaiser of the Goldenbaum dynasty, Erwin Josef II. Fucking bratty ass kid.
Not only that, but he's in the process of tearing a teddy bear apart.
Yeah.
When they walk into his room, and I'm just like,
upsetting. Like,
is the Kaiser okay? Like, is this kid's brain all there? Like I guess I don't know.
The anger management issues, I don't know.
Right, like I cannot tell if like this is a statement on like, oh, this is how any bratty kid would act if given unlimited power, or if they're like explicitly hinting that like Erwin Josef is already like this very vicious, cruel person, and that like it would only be a matter of time until someone like him were granted supreme power would.
The first lines would get out of his mouth is he's like, why isn't he kneeling?
Yeah,
why doesn't he kneel before me?
It's kind of fucking crazy because you got to think about it. Like this fucking 7-year-old kid was only crowned Kaiser like
a year ago, maybe
like a year ago, and he already has like this inbuilt sense of privilege and expectation of those beneath him, and I don't. Yeah. Like again, turns out that power corrupts, son. Like maybe this is why we don't. Maybe this is why we don't have monarchs anymore. Maybe this is why we fucking hung them all. But yeah. So basically, they fucking grab the kid. They fucking bail, through the secret passage, which is underneath the statue of the first Kaiser.
God, yeah, okay, and there's this fucking ridiculous sequence where Admiral Bolt is, yelling at his subordinates, why wasn't security better, etc., etc., and they report about how, like, our plan to the palace indicate there's a secret passage that probably is around here, but I couldn't possibly touch the Kaiser statue.
Yes. This is very much like, oh, you can't harm any facade of the Kaiser.
Moron. Do your job.
Look, man, culture, a deeply ingrained culture that has been engendered over literal centuries is hell of a drug.
Yeah. But
and
they get out with the kid.
Yeah, and then and so we finally end this with the aftermath where Holt is held accountable, and let's not get it fucking twisted here. Reinhard killed this man, and you know Hilda is there, and she kind of
Calls him out.
she calls him out on it. She literally says, "Hey, you know, if
I
we knew this
literally
was
warned you
happening,
about this.
yeah,
Why
like
did you increase security?
right, like
Did you think
that."
you could possibly manipulate Phezzan?
Right, like I mean, Hilda basically says, "Gee, it's almost like the only way this could have happened is if, strangely, you let it happen." And like, I think this is kind of an important conversation because I think kind of to go back to like that comparison I said, where it's kind of like Hilda and Oberstein are the angel and the devil competing to save Reinhardt's soul. Like this is very much Hilda representing in many ways the capability and reach of soft power, and we'll get into that in just a second. But we have a couple things left here. So Hilda totally nails it, but it doesn't really matter because we find out that Holt commits suicide. That he is not interested in facing the consequences. He sees the writing on the wall. He knew what's in store, and
Reinhard says of his actions, perhaps you could call it hypocrisy, but it's better to take these actions than to do nothing.
which motherfucker, your action was doing nothing. Like, yeah, and I just want to talk about this one last part because basically Reinhard calls in a meeting with all his admirals, which include a lot of people I don't think you or I know the names of or have ever seen.
I'm sure they've been in the opening and were the guys we could not name.
Remember the opening, but they just keep bringing in more people into this goddamn show. I swear to God. And basically, he says, "Hey, the Kaiser's been kidnapped. Nobody's allowed to talk about it. Start figuring out what to do, but most importantly, get your fleets ready for an invasion." And you had this fantastic line, which continues to prove that Mittermeyer is probably the best. Where Mittermeyer is fucking walking out of the fucking meeting room, and Mittermeyer, talking with Royenthal as usual. It's like, man, boy, what a meeting. Want to get breakfast at my place?
Right, because the kidnapping happened tonight, and all of the scrambling was happening early hours in the morning. And Mittermeyer is such a nice guy. He's like, "Hey, why don't you just come over and have breakfast?"
Yeah, what a crazy meeting, am I right? Which
I'm sure they're used to this shit.
Yeah. But anyways, that's the end of episode 37. And before I completely lose the tangent, because I keep saying I'll talk about it, I do want to mention it just very quickly because we get to see that with both Hilda and Annerose, for better or worse, kind of being the two female characters that are very prominent in Reinhardt's life and kind of the influence they hold. And kind of the nature of hard power versus soft power and kind of their utility in politics and statecraft. For those unfamiliar, soft power is a concept that was introduced by political scientist Joseph Nye, I think, during the Cold War. Surprise, surprise! A lot of the political concepts we talk about in this show originate from the Cold War, but it basically talks about how power at its very core, the very core of what power is as a concept, is its ability to influence the behavior of others to get what you want. This can be done with threats or direct seizure, or in the case of soft power, it's the use of attraction or co-opting rather than coercion to achieve your goals. But because of its nebulous tangibility as a concept, it's a harder thing to nail. It's kind of why there's I think there's literally half a dozen organizations, international organizations in the world whose job is to rank the soft power of every country in the world every year. And the funniest thing about these lists is that they're literally always totally fucking different. They're all ranked totally differently. There are countries that show up in some lists that never show up in others. It's kind of great in its own way, but it kind of speaks to the idea that soft power can end up being both more and far less powerful than the straightforward nature of hard power. And the reason I talk about this is because in that meeting where Reinhard is meeting with his admirals to say, hey, the Kaiser has been kidnapped, I think it's very notable that Hilda is standing there with Reinhard. Standing there,
basically the only person in that room without a proper military rank.
right? Like, she technically is a civilian. She has no reason to be there. She has no rank. She has no military standing.
She's personal assistant or whatever.
Right. Like she's not even. She doesn't even have Oberstein's status of chief of staff.
Yeah.
Like, the thing about soft power that makes it very nebulous is that technically Hilda has no power. If any of the admirals or Oberstein in that room wanted to, they would be entirely legally within their right to do whatever they want to her. But the reason they don't is because of the influence she holds over Reinhard and also her subjective value to Reinhard. Like, nobody would dare make a move because they know how much she matters to him. And that is the source of her power more than, this sort of sense of systemized ranking or status.
Right. I mean, it's why Kirkeyes was more valuable than the other admirals.
Exactly. Like, Kirkeyes held rank. He was an admiral, but theoretically, his rank was identical to all of the other admirals, almost, anyways. But the soft power he holds is, if you want to use the cynical word, it's nepotism. It's the emotional and subjective value that he holds, or that Reinhard holds for him.
Yeah.
That gives him the exponentially greater power and influence than anybody else who are ostensibly at the same rank. And I won't get into it too much because now we're starting to get away from this episode itself, but I think in many ways that kind of speaks to the very nature, the very soul of politics itself. Is we create laws and rules because theoretically we want everybody to be on an open playing field. But as reality often shows, soft power, i.e. influence and co-option, can have so much more.
Power takes many forms.
Yeah. And I think that's something that Legend of the Galactic Heroes explores very well. Something I think Legend of the GLORIO Heroes maybe does not have a ton of. We're working on building up our soft power, but to do that, we need all y'all to hit that subscribe button. But we'll save that for the end of the podcast.
Oh boy.
So with that said, we get to episode 38. We kind of return to the FPA.
Yeah, but first there's a bit of Phezzan smuggling ship number 2027 or fucking whatever. Just ferrying that kid who's smashing up the hidden room and pulling his maid's hair and
basically doing all kinds of ratchet shit. Okay, I get it. You just been kidnapped. Look, nobody likes being kidnapped. I get it, but man, kid, fucking
chill out.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want to go back to it because we're already moving on, but I feel like for as much as I think Schumacher is an intelligent, competent guy, the fact that neither of them even considered bringing chloroform or a blindfold or just a gag with them,
yeah,
they just want to grab this kid kicking and screaming and then run out the palace.
The premise of this kidnapping is that it's,
a liberation, yes.
Yeah.
But you think a guy like Schumacher, who's pretty canny, would at least account for the possibility that
Lansberg would not agree to such a thing.
No, of course not. He's a bungling poet. Anyways, so yes, we get that because basically we get this moment with the Phezzan ship because we find out that the FPA has kind of always been kind of a spot for refugees from the Empire to flee to.
Right.
That's kind of how we get the Rosenritter, for example. But anyways, we get that. Then we kind of get Rupert and Rubinsky talking.
Phezzan.
Yeah, about how Rupert's a little concerned because
he sees the writing on the wall that Reinhard is taking a position of power.
Yes, and that the jaws are closing in around them. And Rubinsky's still playing it pretty cool. And at this point, honestly, it's hard for me to tell if Rubinsky's playing it cool because of arrogance or because he truly, truly believes or knows that he still has a plan. Because Rupert's basically like, Reinhard pushed Baltic into a corner. We got to do something about this. Like, he's making moves, whereas Rubinsky's kind of like, no, this is all according to the plan. And it's like, okay, fine. Like, because Rubinsky has shown himself to be so competent so far, I'm willing to believe and see what he does, but we'll see.
Yep. We also find out that Rupert is hanging out with Dominic Sanpiel, the pretty lady who has been seen occasionally hanging out with Agent Rubinsky.
Yes. Not quite sure what the relationship is there, but you're free to make your own.
I mean, speaking of people screwing the same ladies,
yes. So, speaking of yes, we finally return to Iserlohn, where we are reminded once again why Yang's crew are the best.
It's totally ridiculous conversation they have.
Yeah, I don't want to summarize it point by point, but basically we have this fantastic 5 minutes of just Yang and Julian and Poplin and Shenkop and Kazelnu and just basically everybody hanging out in the bridge of Iserlohn, kind of just having fun, joking around. Yang's talking about how he's bored, but bored is good. Fucking doing crossword puzzles at Iserlohn because it's been quiet for a while.
It means nobody's attacking.
Yeah, and hey, that's great for him. Poplin talking about how he's going to be fine because he's actually a higher life form. He's never going to grow old. When he turns 30, he'll actually reincarnate.
Rejuvenate to be 29 again.
Yes, Shenkov talking about how he has better taste in women than Poplin.
Even though they're visiting the same women.
Yeah, but I think Shenkov was saying, well, look who I visited first, so. But yeah, Poplin be like, hey, why are you naming me? Why'd you name the ladies? This is gender discrimination.
No. Just
Poplin being kind of a lovable dirtbag. It's some great stuff. We have some great banter between Yang and Kazelnu, where Kazelnu's like, don't fucking let these guys hang around Julian. They're gonna give him bad thoughts. They're gonna make him grow up into a bad husband for my daughter. And Yang being like, well, if your daughter's a good person, she did inherit it from you. So just so good. I'm not even.
It compares so well to Reinhard's extreme I'm gonna shuffle you into a room and tell you what to do.
Yeah,
and then leave.
Yes, it's a fantastic contrast. It's one we needed so bad after the last 2 episodes of Reinhard, doing his thing. It kind of reminds you of just how genuinely warm Yang's crew feels. Even if the rest of the FPA is collapsing around them, just how great of a group of people Yang has assembled, and just the fantastic relationships they have. I'm not even joking. I would watch a fucking 26 episode episode. Yeah. Some fucking the Days of Our Lives on Iserlohn. Just some shit like that. Cheers, but on Iserlohn. Just everybody hanging out at some bar in downtown in Iserlohn and fucking. Instead of the bartender solving everybody's problems, it's just Yang, the regular patron there, just sitting around and just solving everybody's issues every episode. But yeah, so alas, things don't. The good times are cut short because
Job Truniht declares a mandatory fucking video message or whatever. Everyone's gotta stop and watch this. Yep. Everyone has to stop and watch this, guys.
Everybody got to look at me, Job Truniht,
Supreme Chairman.
Yes, and And what does he say, Iro? What does he tell our intrepid crew?
Many come to the FPA seeking freedom, but now a special one has shown up seeking freedom. Erwin Josef von Goldenbaum.
Yes, the Kaiser of the Galactic Empire.
Because Reinhard von Lohengram, who's now in charge of the Empire, is evil and a despot and trying to extinguish the beautiful light of democracy. And it's impossible for us to coexist with that guy. So,
Job doing what he does best, which is spew like worthless, empty rhetoric that somehow fucking convinces everybody to follow him.
Yep. And some former Empire guys show up on TV and announce their totally legitimate government in exile now.
Yes.
Is being housed by the FPA.
Yeah. It's being led by Lord Remscheid.
Yep.
Who is the head of this new government in exile, and that they are nominating
Admiral. Totally our military chief.
Yes. Which, catches Merkatz himself off guard because fucking nobody told him about this.
Yeah.
And, it's just, so basically just Job Truniht is making this big, he is very, I think, I have to assume he is doing this on purpose. He is explicitly making this gigantic, very public statement because, in a ways, it forces the Empire to respond to him.
Forces the FPA to take a stance as well.
It also forces them to take a stance, right? There is honestly a version of this where they quietly receive the Emperor, they hole him up somewhere, and then every time the Empire comes knocking, they just say, "Huh? Who? Where? Have you checked Phezzan yet? I saw he was over there, actually."
But this is Job Truniht being just as much of a warmonger as Reinhard.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get it twisted. Both of the leaders of these two respective nations they're going beyond saber rattling. They're cocking their guns. They're putting their fingers on the trigger. And
I don't know what Job Truniht's game is.
Right? You know what? Yeah, we might as well just talk about that now. What the fuck is Job Truniht's deal?
Yeah, I just don't know. Because we've seen him in the past, and we know that he's politically canny enough to allow situations to go in his favor. When he voted against the invasion way back.
Yeah.
So we could gain more power later. But now he's just fallen right into Phezzan and the Empire's hands.
Right, Job Truniht is basically just acting a fucking Saturday morning cartoon villain version of an evil politician. None of the nuance, none of the depth of any of the other characters we've seen in this show. Here's the thing. I'm never going to say, I think that guys like Rubinsky and Reinhard are admirable or good, but they're highly sympathetic, or if not sympathetic, interesting or compelling because we know the depths of their motivations. We know where they're coming from, and we know that
the motivations line up with it's logical on a narrative level.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what the hell Job Truniht's thinking.
Right, because here's the thing: Rubinsky is basically Job Truniht, but smarter or better fleshed out, at least. When Rubinsky does his evil plotting, we're that lines up with kind of what Rubinsky would do. But nothing Job Truniht does makes sense.
I mean, it did before, but now he's Supreme Chairman, and what does he gain by allowing this war to continue?
Exactly. That's a thing. Job Truniht is now literally the most powerful individual in the FPA. Short of taking over the Empire, there's nowhere there's nowhere else left for him to go. And that leads to the very frightening thought that, oh God, is Job Truniht so delusional that he thinks that the FPA in its current state can win a protracted war with the Empire?
But let me say, but there have been the hints that he is connected somehow with Phezzan and the Earth Cult.
Specifically the Earth Cult, I think.
Right, who are backing Phezzan.
Yes, but
which is like part of
let's
the fucking web of like
yeah,
what is Phezzan's plan? Is that related to what the Earth Cult exactly wants? And how does that relate to what Job Truniht wants?
right.
It's like
Because here's the
maybe he thinks that allowing the Empire to destroy the FPA will allow him to lead a privileged life after all the chaos or whatever.
I guess that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, and here's the thing: maybe it's because I'm not a fucking despotic maniac, because I'm not a selfish, greedy asshole. But I don't like Job Trunicht's motivations compared to even Rubinsky's or Reinhardt's or even the Earth cults doesn't make a lot of sense. Because if what he's after is power, he's taking actions that are directly contrary to that goal.
Yeah, he already has tons of power.
Right, like he can only stand to lose from going to war. Like what else? What other power could he consolidate at this point? Going to war is only just going to get more people killed, and like no matter how selfish you are, no matter how greedy you are, like you can't just fucking you can't actively making the choice to destroy your own nation. Very rarely works out for those in power.
Yeah.
So like,
I just wonder if it's gonna be a fucking he was brainwashed by the Earth Cult or some shit,
God.
and is like taking these ridiculous steps that will tear down the FPA out of some ideological like fanaticism.
Yeah, maybe because like I'm running out of like possible theories as to the reason for his actions. Like,
yeah,
it just
it's baffling.
Yeah, and I think maybe like
it's the thing is, show probably explain it, but
I hope so because my greatest fear would be that the FPA is in the process of being destroyed. And then we find out that Job Truniht actually didn't have a plan. That he was just a selfish, greedy, corrupt politician. And that all of this was just an extremely short-sighted power grab.
And it would be that shit's going on. That shit happens.
Yeah, it truly does. But if that were all there ever was to the character, it makes him such a fucking cartoon character. It's compared to so many of the other villains or just characters in this show, he's so flat in comparison.
Well, all I'm saying is that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, this entire rant, when you contextualize it like that,
we wouldn't have thought this to be possible if we were doing this 3 or 4 years ago.
I suppose you're right. 3-4 years ago, I'd be like, how could a president possibly take such self-destructive, choices? Like, it makes no sense. How could he possibly benefit from it? But you know what? It's fucking 2019 we live in, so.
Yep.
Anyways.
Yeah, and so Young calls his round table of buddies, and well, we gotta figure out what the hell to do about this.
Yeah, but before that, please tell me you took some screen caps because I can't. I could not remember.
Just like lecturing Poplin.
Yeah, just fucking Poplin spitting hot fire this episode.
I mean, Poplin's like, why the fuck should we have to protect the Golden Bomb heir after all the fucking shit they put us through for the past 150 years?
Yeah.
Like, hasn't our whole purpose been to fight them?
Yeah.
And, is this one Boris, or is this Ivan?
I think this is Ivan.
Boris Konev is...
Boris is the spy, right?
I think so.
Okay, Boris is the spy. Ivan
I'm waiting for the connection there. I'm still waiting for it.
Look, give this show... We got a lot of show left.
Right. And, Konev is just laying out the, cold, rational logic that, it's a child, and as from a humanitarian standpoint, we must help this child. And it doesn't matter how many billions of people died because of the Golden Bomb dynasty. It is not the fault of this child.
Yeah, I mean, Konev's not wrong, but also I think Poplin also has the right idea personally, though, when he says that the Golden Bomb dynasty don't deserve humanitarian treatment. So, But yes, we get back. Yes, so to go back, yes, we get a Yang meeting with his crew, and they basically talk about Yang knows the score, that he understands that right from the start that the Kaiser's kidnapping is probably something Reinhard let happen because it's the perfect casus belli.
Yep, it's a great situation for him.
And that even worse is that the bad reputation associated with the Goldenbaum dynasty is gonna rub off on the FPA, because remember, this is the empire associated with the fucking Lippstadt League and shit. Like, this is like the old school fucking space despot empire,
Yep, which means the current empire administration and their citizens are not happy about this.
Yeah, and they get to hold a kind of a moral high ground.
Yeah,
and we kind of get a fantastic bit where
as this whole conversation is happening, we're all lamenting this terrible situation we're in, Yang, pours some liquor into his cup. Pours a lot of liquor into his cup.
yes. Julian, being ever helpful, tries to grab the bottle away from Yang, only for said
it
bottle
out of arm reach of Yang.
Yes, only for which Shenkop picks up because he needs a drink too, and then he passes it off to fucking everybody else, including Castle Nuu, because oh boy, we all need a drink after this news.
Oh, it's such a great bit though.
Oh yeah,
passing like Julian's disappointed face at Yang having a drink, and then everyone starts pouring themselves a drink.
Yeah, it's so good. It's just Julian's a good kid, but sometimes you got a situation like this that is just so appalling, so grave, that if you don't drink, you'll likely lose your mind.
Yeah, and as we clear out of the room, Shenkop basically tells Yang, you should do something about this, probably.
Yeah. And
if you criticize the government's actions, it might help a little, at least.
Yeah, basically. I mean, Shenkop is basically begging Yang to be a little bit more proactive, because up till now, Yang has basically just let these things happen to him. And now we're at a point where if Yang continues just letting things happen to him, we're going to get dragged into another horrible, bloody war.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, so, we basically...
I did really like this conversation, though.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a fantastic conversation, totally. We're Shenkop and Yang basically have a discussion about, what does freedom of speech actually mean?
Yeah, how free is the Free Planets Alliance if you cannot... I mean, in our current climate, I don't want to bang the fucking free speech drum, but God, this is why we can't have nice things. God damn it. Fuck.
Yeah, as we always say, for an OVA made, 30 years ago, it's stunning. It's remarkable how it constantly comes back to us in strangely relevant ways.
Yeah. Yang believes that he cannot express his ideals in the current political climate. Basically, even though it would save lives and maybe not cause them all to go to war, potentially.
I mean, I think I'm not willing to write Yang out of the game just yet because of some things he says at the very end of this. But anyways,
this is the narrowing of that thread, though.
Yes, very much. Yes, this is very much Rubinsky narrowing the thread. But how this episode actually ends is Reinhard, upon hearing this speech, decides to come out with his own speech.
Yep.
Where he is calling out the Empire, he is calling out the FPA, he is calling out Phezzan. Reinhard is coming out here with the hottest fucking diss track that anyone has seen up until this point. He is saying that everyone responsible for this act will die by his hands. That everyone who opposes him will burn to the ground, that there is no room for reconciliation, there is no room for peace. Like, you have sealed your fates.
We get shots of everyone across the galaxy, wherever, watching this.
Oh,
like,
yes.
From Job Truniht in his office to, like, a bar somewhere to, like, Bucock watching it to, like, the Kaiser's room, and
just get to it, Iro. Just get to the last one.
Crashing around, they're holding him down, and then we get to the Earth Cult's fucking, like, underground cavern hideout, and their giant crystal ball. Their fucking final boss of a JRPG lair. We're sitting down here in our black robes with, like, flanked by giant torches.
It's
our fucking crystal ball.
Right, like, everybody else is watching this on, like, a fucking TV, and then they got some, like, fucking sphere-shaped hologram projection, and God, you know, I said, you know, like, I keep saying that the Empire is the most dramatic corner of the galaxy, but it's probably actually wherever the Earth Cult are hanging out, because holy shit. Those guys have a gimmick, and they stick to it. Just marvelous. Truly marvelous. Just fucking the Earth Cult in their fucking Batcave-ass cavern. Just, oh my god, just... what a truly...
Yeah.
What a truly fantastic show.
Yep, you know, yeah.
Boy. And yeah, just a hell of a way to end the episode. You know, it's just, God, this show just, it moves in a way that no other show does. Like, in just the 3 episodes since the Geiersberg battle,
whole new status quo.
An entirely new status quo. And, like, I'm sorry to all our listeners who are getting bored of listening to us fucking get so, like, excited and having our minds blown every single time it happens. But I am just, my dude, we are 38 episodes in. We still have, like, 60 left.
I feel like I couldn't even have imagined so many situations in episode 1.
Yeah, like, you ask us, hey, what do you think happens in episode 38 of Legend of the Galactic Heroes?
I don't fucking know.
Like, motherfucker,
I got no clue.
Like, not only do I have no clue, I don't even know fucking half the characters who show up by episode 38. Just, what a show. What a show.
What a show, it's true.
God damn. And, oh, man, I think on that note, I think that's a good place to call it.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
I you know, just to check in, you know, Iro, do you have any closing thoughts?
Let's see here. Let's get my notes.
Anything we might have missed or skimmed over you wanna talk about, or any closing thoughts?
Right? While Rupert was hanging with pretty ladies, he said that his next play is to go after
Oh, the bishop guy, like, not the leader, but
Bishop Degsby.
Yeah. Find out his one weakness. Because Rupert is kind of making his own power plays. You know, he's because he specifically says he wants to make Degsby his subordinate, not Rubinsky's subordinate, not Phezzan's subordinate, his subordinate.
The fucking power web of the show is just going ever larger.
Yes, and I fucking love it. Just the fucking nightmare spider web that is the politics of Legend of the Galactic Heroes. But I think that'll do it. So, in that case, let's take care of some housekeeping. So, as always, you can listen to Legend of the Galactic Heroes and the rest of our written content on theglorioblog.com. You can follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog. As always, you can watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes streaming on High Dive and I think VRV now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on Verve now.
Yeah. So, you know, check that out. Let's see. You can listen to the podcast here. You can listen to it on iTunes and Podbean. We're looking about thinking maybe getting it onto other platforms. I probably shouldn't say that since that's Gel's job. So really, I'm just putting words into his mouth. But as somebody who uses the Google Play app for podcasts, I'm just saying, maybe we could put it on there. It would. Anyways, let's see. You can listen to us on. You can also check out the podcast on YouTube. We don't have a URL, so you're just gonna have to Google Legend of the GLORIO Heroes, and we'll probably show up in the first 3 to 5 entries on Google.
Yeah, probably.
We would love a URL someday, so if you think we should have one,
subscribe.
Yeah, all that shit.
Etc.
Leave a review, tell your friends, tell your enemies, all that good stuff. But I think with all that said, as always, Iro, thank you for accompanying me on this journey.
Thank you.
And to all of you listening, thank you for staying with us. Thank you for listening to all of our hot takes and long-winded tangents about politics and military tactics. We couldn't do this without y'all. And I think with all that said, we will see you all next time amongst the sea of stars.